Minouche Bestus, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
welcome,
thank you.
welcome. You have your clicker there because you have something to show us.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
I'm going to take you through some ways to get unstuck in really difficult situations in our cities.
Okay, so why do we need to get unstuck?
Well, you know, a lot of our cities are trying to make big changes, especially in our inner cities, but also in our neighborhoods, where municipalities are trying to get rid of the cars, so to get more community life, to get better, healthier lifestyles, and to also work on climate adaptation. We need space to do that, and now our cars are clogging our streets, and often our inner cities are also not built for that. But
because this is always an interesting stat that you have here, right? When we sort of focus on that, the difference in temperature is extreme.
Absolutely. So it really helps if we have more space in our streets to do that. But we're very much loving our cars. And we don't want to get rid of them. Yeah, I don't. I haven't had a car in years. But,
I don't have a license.
So the whole idea of being able to park your car in front of your house, to go shopping and park your car in front of the shop, and have households with 2 cars and an electric bike, cargo bike in front. So there's lots of...
We love easiness and comfort, and it needs to be easy.
And the moment we start talking about cars, we get a lot of debate. So, and this is really what I want to show you today, that there are different methods to do that. So how do we go then from having that debate on cars to, look at the streets here where their car is still present, but not so much, and where it's more green, and where there's more community life, but also where our shopping areas become more pleasant places to be. And the method I want to share with you is called tactical urbanism. And it's actually a design method that really uses quicker, lighter, cheaper methods to make long-term changes in our cities. And we can't really imagine how it would look like if we take away the car. And so, for instance, these are quicker, lighter, cheaper methods. It's more like we use a little bit of paint, and we just redesign the street a little bit, but we don't do a long-term design process. If we really want to do this the right way, then that takes years, because we have a design process, we have participatory workshops, we have to go to the council, and then we have a lot of debate moments where people can say what they feel about it.
It sounds like you don't really enjoy this process.
No, I do it a lot, and also because we're really in a hurry with the climate situation in our cities, and sometimes it just takes years and years to get a little bit of change going on, while actually we don't really know what we're resisting. And often if we find ourselves in this new situation, we sort of feel like, hey, that's actually really, really nice. I didn't really know that my street could be so nice, or my square, or my inner city. So, my street could also look like this. Or
with frogs.
Yeah, with frogs, helping kids to go to school and create safe areas. I mean, it's still very strange that we tell our kids to be afraid of cars, while actually it should be the other way around, and have the kids go safely to school and have the cars pay attention. So we're in this, we're a bit stuck in the way that we think. And tactical urbanism is really about doing something for a day, or maybe for a month, or maybe a year. And from that, we learn and we experience, and we see what works and what doesn't work. And from that, we're sort of collectively taking the steps forward and talk from experiencing the new situation and go to a long-term design. And that long-term design can start from the beginning, but at the same time, we can also start experiencing it.
So you implement ideas that you have already sort of foregoing the process, and then seeing if people actually enjoy it more than the current situation.
Absolutely. Okay. So we recently went to Milan. One of my co-workers works there, and she has been involved in this case study. And in Milan, I mean, if you've been there, you know how car-oriented Milan is. It's like crammed with cars everywhere. And it also has very wide streets and wide squares. And as a pedestrian, you have like no way to know where you're going to cross the street. And they used the Corona period very, very wisely. So with taking advantage of less traffic in the streets, they came up with a scheme where they invited the inhabitants of Milan to point out which squares and which streets they would love to have less cars. And over a period of 3 years, they pedestrianized and made the squares with lesser cars. They did 35 squares. And they created 76 kilometers of bike lanes. I mean, if we would normally do that, that takes, years and years and years. And this they did in 3 years.
But they did involve the people from the beginning. Absolutely. Because it was based on their wish in that sense.
Well, they did take a step first by doing a bold pilot. Okay. And said, okay, let's do this and then see what happens, because we need a bold pilot to get things going and also to see if the approach that they thought worked.
To test for themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to see what do we need to put in that program to make it work. So they did a first bold one. 80% of the people in that neighborhood were like fully against it. They were protesting, and it's like, what are you doing? You didn't ask me anything. And then they said, well, we do it, and we do it for half a year. After half a year, we come back to you. And if you still don't want it, we'll put it back to the way it was. And of course, when they did the review, people didn't want to get it back the way it was. They actually really loved the space. And there was so much more community life. People were meeting each other. And so it was really like, okay, let's see what happens. And then you see here, people were sitting outside. They were meeting neighbors.
Is this one of the real...
Yeah, this is one of the...
examples of Milan?
Yeah, one of the examples there. And so it was very simple, but just taking away a bit of the area and creating it more for community, it really made all the difference. And so this is also, it's really about community. So when they did the first pilot, they opened up the whole program and they invited people, and many of the communities came in. And so it's not all in a city, it's mostly in the urbana of the living areas of the city, the neighborhoods, and also the community is really taking part of the process. So there is a design team that helps the community to come up with the space, and they do it in small areas next to schools, so kids are not crammed on the stoop, but really have the space to be there and go there with their bikes. But also in larger areas and larger squares. And as you see here, it's very simple things. It doesn't completely turn over everything.
Because could you go back to the yellow one? What did you do there? What was happening?
Well, what they did there is like everything that is now yellow was a street.
Road.
Yeah, it was road.
Yeah.
So cars would like go everywhere, and like if you want to cross the street here with your bike or on foot, it's very unsafe.
So all the yellow parts are now places to be.
Yeah. So they made the sidewalks bigger, and so there is more space for people. There is actually space to sit and to play and to meet. There's a place for bike racks. So it's, and on every square, the community itself decides, or every street, what they wish to do. And this one is even more interesting as it is bike lanes. And normally in Milan, to get a bike lane, it takes you about 7 years. This took you about 3 months. And so it doesn't comply with all the regulations that we have in place. So I was here with a number of Dutch city professionals, and I'm like, there's no way we can do this. But then again, part of the program was that they allow them to do it for a while.
And they sort of turn a blind eye, it almost seems.
Yeah, in a sense. And, but it immediately makes the street safer. It ensures less accidents. It's safer to cross. So you can see that from evidence that immediately that works.
What is crossing my mind all the time right now listening to you, because I love that this is a bit almost like rebellious in a way that makes me, excited. But this is all used, of course, to, let's say, improve people's well-being and their environment. So there's not an easy way to be against that, if you like. But you could also then maybe use this method to say, I want more cars and more, things that we don't maybe associate with well-being. So you could use your method almost also to create the other side, if you like.
You could, but then again, this is a program that started from the municipality. So the municipality took the initiative and said, okay, this is what we're achieving.
Okay.
So they didn't set out to achieve more cars. They set out to achieve more public space and more a place. So it's really about social and healthy neighborhoods.
So they are still the ones in charge, if you like.
Yeah.
But they are just foregoing their own set of rules and regulations how to get there.
Well, we're trying to get unstuck, really, because it's really difficult if you want to do this. I'm not sure, a lot of you have worked are working in public space, and you know how difficult it is to do these processes in cities. It is, I have it in my own city at the moment, and they're planning to do something with the cars in 10 different neighborhoods, and it's going to be paid parking because they want to lower it's petitions all over. So this is what happens because we don't know what we gain.
No. So really what you're saying is we need to be able to experience how much improved and the improvement of your own surroundings to be able to not just go like no all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And so here with the bike lanes, it improved a lot, and it was used also immediately a lot. So it's interesting how that goes. And they used a very simple design toolkit. It was not that everything was possible. So they used benches and pylons and road barriers, and there was always a ping-pong table.
There was always a ping-pong table.
Yeah,
that's an
paint
important.
and always a ping-pong. And in the beginning, like in the first pilot, they had a little bit more in their toolkit. And then they realized and found out that, this is suitable. Yeah. With this, you can create everything that you want. And it's also interesting to find out what it then is that people need. This is a very long site of a former rail track, and it's used by urban street artists, and it's really their gallery. It's really where they show their work. And it was interesting what it was that they needed. So they wanted the pylons to create wider areas, so it was safer to spray paint. And they make amazing work. This is not like this is like 10 meters wide. So it's really art. It's not just, and so it's a public area. It's a public art gallery. But we would have never known that they needed these pylons and that they wanted it designed like that. So this is really also where you collaborate with your community.
Collaborate with the audience a bit, I'd say, because we're nearing the end of this program. I would love for them to be able to also maybe ask you some questions.
Yeah.
So,
and it does lead to final design. So these are some of the final designs that. And some people in the neighborhood that now say, like, it's not so colorful as all the painting was, but
Nice. Let's go to your questions, because I'd love to see if there's input from you as well and ideas about all of this. I see a wave over there. Let's make your way to the microphone. Thank you.
bit high. Hi, my name is Annemarijn Koedood. I work at Poza Maxman, just like Laura. And it's great. Like you talked a lot about safety and having more public space and having like a good impact on the well-being of residents. But I'm also curious. Did you also see like a reduction in car usage and like changes in behavior, like less residents taking the car?
Well, I don't know if it really was less car use. I haven't been involved in the project myself, so I don't know. But I do know is that it is funny how that works. There were less car parks, and for some way that resolves. So there was not like, okay, where do I park my car now? So people were not driving around finding spots. So they did see a take up in bikes and walking. So you see that shift going.
So it could be.
It could be, yes. I'll ask them the next time if they have data on that, because that will be interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time for one more. I say one and there's four. So, person at the back, please. Thank you. You'll be here around for a little while later.
Yeah,
People can
absolutely.
ask questions. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for being the lucky one then. Thank you so much. You said it, Marco Roosendaal, I'm from TU Delft and also from Design United. You mentioned it required a bold pilot and that it's really about rebellious, guerrilla type of tactics. What are your experiences, for instance, in the Dutch context, when you said we're going to develop these tactical approaches? What does it require, and how can you practice these kind of tactics, for instance, in the Dutch context? Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah.
That sounds like 3 questions. Maybe try and sort of wrap it up
I'll
quite
wrap that
nicely.
up in one.
Thank you so much. No, I understand. It's interesting. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So here there was an alderman that really supported this. But I have worked in Dutch cities where we did similar things, like closing off streets in a monthly basis for a longer period. If there is a sense of urgency, but you do need a politician, and you do need to organize a little bit of a framework in which you can do this. So allow us for a year to try to work with this and develop a set of rules, regulations with the municipality to do that. So Rotterdam has a very good system in place for parklets, taking parking spaces out to create a temporary park or something else. We did that also in a smaller scheme, but really making sure, like for instance, that shops don't use the parking lots for making commercial activities. So you really need to address the concerns that they have, and valid concerns often, to make sure that it works. But it is possible, but you do need a little bit of support politically and some urgency.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's go and find a lot of it, I say.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
urgency we have, we know that.
Yeah, we have a lot of urgency.
Thank you so much.
You're
Minouche
welcome.
Besters. Round of applause.